to market with. UFOs are, of course, often dramatised through fiction, but the reality is many are genuine, documented phenomenons and are far from humorous. Well, here to tell us all about it, of course, is John Wickham. John, welcome to Living the Life.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, the pleasure really is ours, and I think this is a very intriguing subject. Tell us more about the work of bufora and what you guys get up to.
The British UFO Research Association, we've been in existence for just over 50 years, so it's all on a voluntary basis. What we do, we receive reports from members of the public about a sighting they've seen, and it's our job to disseminate that information, come up with a plausible explanation for what the actual object was that they've sighted. Some things, the majority of things, we say probably 98% of things, can be identified. But there are the few that cannot. But just because something remains unidentified does not mean it is extraterrestrial in origin. It just means it remains unidentified.
Now, when people think of UFOs, right, and this is very exciting for me because I've been around a lot of this. My brother, as I was saying to you off it, is really into UFOs and the world outside of the world, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, when we think of UFOs, we think of kind of flying saucers and spaceship, everything we've seen in films and TV, but it's not that specific, is it? UFOs can mean a lot of different things.
The acronym UFO, for the media and the public, they use it now as a word meaning an alien spacecraft, where in the literal sense it just means a flying object that the observer cannot identify. You and I could be looking at the same object in the sky. You can identify it as a plane. I need my glasses for long distance. To me, I can see the object, but I can't identify it. So that object can be a UFO and an IFO at the same time, an unidentified flying object and an identified flying object. And lots of people say to me, do you believe in UFOs? Where on that analogy, if I'm looking at that, how can I believe in that? So it's a bit confusing what people come up with, but in the literal sense, UFO means an unidentified flying object. It does not necessarily mean it's extraterrestrial.
So obviously, there's often, you're saying this 1 or 2%. Have there been any mysteries as such that you guys have managed to find out? There were plausible explanations, but it took a long time. Were there any particular big breaks that you guys have been behind?
Not necessarily so, because most things are just mundane misinterpretations, and people's beliefs dictate to a certain degree what they think they've seen. And a lot of people are so, possibly I don't know about your brother, I've never met the chap, but some people are so engrossed in the belief that aliens are walking the planet that if they see a craft in the sky, no matter if you come back with you could actually find 100% evidence of what it was. It might have been an aircraft, it could have been a flare let off by somebody that needed some help. And we've come up with explanations and we can prove the explanation, but they say, no, it was an alien spacecraft. So people's beliefs dictate what they think they've seen.
John, are aliens out there? Do you believe aliens are out there?
I've said this many times, so I apologise for the viewers at home that have listened to this, but there are over 300 billion stars in our galaxy. There's estimated to be over 100 billion galaxies.
Wow.
And we know for a fact some of these planets out there contain the same elements and gases that are abundant on Earth. Therefore, they could sustain some form of life. Now, life could be vegetation, it could be bacteria. Not necessarily carbon electrical entities like what human beings are, but they could sustain some form of life. It is quite logical. So for me, it's not impossible for life to exist elsewhere, but we've got no definitive proof that there is anything out there at the moment.
That's a yes.
Is it?
That's a yes, isn't it?
Is it?
Come on, that's a yes. That's a yes.
That's a nice try.
I think it's a very plausible and a very
I've never thought of human
answer.
beings as carbon. What was it you said?
Carbon electrical entities.
Carbon electrical entities. That's a wonderful way to describe people, human beings.
What I would say is life doesn't have to be as we know it, or even as we understand it.
Now, if there's people out there who, as you say, are so ingrained in the idea and so kind of committed to this belief that there are people out there, there's misinterpretations all the time. I mean, occasionally, if you watch these documentaries about the unknown or the UFOs and things like that, going somewhere completely different. I mean, you often see like farmers, agricultural people, working people who do crop circles in the United States, that kind of thing. How much credence is there to that? Is that something that's been glorified by the media, or is there a lot of credibility behind it?
What do you mean credibility?
Well, as in when you, because you're an expert in the field, right? So you're a person who's given a lot of time to researching it. You belong to this organisation, which has a lot of credibility. When you look at most of these cases that you hear about crop circles in the United States, are these genuinely indications, as far as you're concerned, or good research is concerned, of activity beyond our understanding, or is it generally humdrum stuff the media's created?
The media creates a lot of things. And it creates excitement. We have what we call crop circles, but I'd prefer to call them crop formations because they're not all circles.
Okay.
So, but crop formations, in my opinion, we know some are made by humans, man-made. It's not a sexist comment, it's just man-made, as in human. We know for a fact that quite a few are man-made. Some we know was years ago prosecuted for damaging a field because of that very reason. We have lots of different graphic designers. They were advertising something, I can't remember what the actual particular one was recently,
sure.
But people thought, yeah, that's proof that aliens exist. It's not proof that aliens exist. If aliens existed, would they come down and just create something in a field? Surely they'd try to communicate in some other way.
Okay, there's a documentary I saw actually a while back. I don't know if you've seen this. It's called I Know What I Saw. Are you familiar with this?
No, but I've heard the phrase quite often.
I know what I saw. Yeah, no, I'm
they
sure.
don't know what they've seen.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
See, this is the thing. So that documentary focused on a lot of people who had claims.
Sure.
There was nothing really to substantiate their claims. Some of them had some footage.
Yes.
But what I'm thinking is, guys, if you're out there and you think you've seen a UFO, why don't you get yourself a HD camera, for God's sake? And
it's true.
Film with one of those. Why do you always have a camera from the 1960s
it's true.
with night vision and pixelations, which makes it impossible
and then
to
suddenly,
identify?
Suddenly a B-52 bomber with a huge wingspan is all of a sudden, a giant spacecraft. Oh, for goodness sake.
Don't mean to offend anybody out there who thinks they've seen a UFO, but like, try and document this, because this is something that's really interesting.
It is serious.
What's the closest thing, John, before you move on, what's the closest thing to documentation of unidentified or extraterrestrial life that we've come close to?
I think a good example of that was on the 17th of November 1986. There was a Japanese air flight, JAL 1628, and it was approaching, I think, 1711 time, flying from Paris to Tokyo, going to refuel, and the captain, Captain Kenchu Teruyuki, or something like that, I apologise if I've mispronounced that incorrectly, he reported seeing 3 large objects about 2,000 feet below him. He was 33,000 feet up high, travelled about 600 miles per hour. Those 3 objects appeared on radar, and that's so you've got visual and you've got radar evidence of that. The conversation between Captain Kencho Teruyuki and the air traffic control is available on the internet. So it's Japanese airline flights, JAL 1628. People can search that on the websites, Google that or whatever. That is very, very interesting for that to be backed up by radar. For me, that's quite good.
I think we're going to have to get you on with a pilot I've got in mind and maybe revisit this particular item because I'm loving your presence here, John.
It's fascinating.